episode 1 of the podcast with the person who's responsible for the Up and In Dynasty Baseball League's creation. Crash, you started the league in 2013 as an outgrowth of a Facebook fan group for the Up and In podcast, which resides at baseballprospectus.com. It was hosted by Kevin Goldstein and Jason Parks before both of them left for jobs in Major League Baseball. And I remember you putting a post out there, and it was like, hey, I'm starting a league, and we're going to have 16 teams, and we're going to have a whole lot more rules and stuff to make it as simulationist as possible. I guess my first question would be, what is it that possessed you to do this?
Well, I'm out on the island here. I'm in St. John's, Newfoundland in Canada, and I don't have a lot of people that I can talk baseball with. And I had been away from the game for a few years, and I came back to the league in 2012. The end of 2011 is when I rediscovered my love of baseball, and 2012 I picked up MLB TV and started following the A's. I watched every game from 2012 to 13, every single game.
Wow.
But so I started listening to podcasts around that time as well. I just moved into the place I'm still living in, which is the longest I've ever lived anywhere, 8 years, you know.
Yeah, right.
And,
yeah.
So the Up and In was my favorite podcast. Kevin and Jason had an awesome chemistry, and I found the community to be awesome, you know, and the group on Facebook was wicked. And I wanted to have a fantasy league, and this is still, well, I just joined a hockey league this year, and I'm now in 2 fantasy leagues in my entire life. And the very first one was this one, and obviously it'll always be dear to my heart. And the second one, it was a hockey league that my brother has been in for like 11 years, and I've been trying to get in it, and I finally got in it this year.
Huh.
So I put that post up, as you said, and the rest is history, as you say.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a Canadian, I would think it would be in your contract to have hockey leagues or some sort of hockey fandom.
I was a big hockey fan. I was a Hartford Whalers fan, and when they moved
to
Carolina years ago, it hurt. It's the only time I've lost a favorite team, and it hurt. And hockey's never been the same, and I started getting back into it because of this pool. So it's I've started following hockey again on the level I was before, getting to know the players. You know, all the stats now, because the hockey's kind of follow baseball now with more stats and stuff, which I love, you know. Mm-hmm. So, so the hockey is back.
I mean, is there any such thing as a Canadian that doesn't like hockey? Honestly, I don't think I've met one.
Most do, I would say. Most do. It's kind of bred into you, you know, as a Canadian.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think people make the same assumption, you know, about, you know, British folks and soccer or whatever. I don't know if America really has that. I mean, because...
For Americans, I always thought baseball. That's what I consider the American pastime, because that's what I heard it as, was the American pastime, you know? And,
they enjoy very favorable congressional legislation to that effect, having an antitrust exemption and so on. But I know one of the key media themes, at least in the media that I generally read about baseball, is that the fan base is aging, and they're trying to kind of, in baseball, you know, MLB Incorporated or whatever is not doing a very good job of getting the next generation into the game.
Yeah, that's the like the rules to speed it up, and also like the man on second rule in extra innings and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think rule changes are necessarily going to change the appeal of the game. I think the worry is that it's that the game moves too slowly, and you know, that there's just not enough that happens. I don't know about you, but that's actually one of the things I love about it. I mean, you can sit there and have a conversation while the game's going on.
Yeah, and I think people who don't get baseball don't get that part of it. And if you do gravitate towards it, that's a part of it that you discover, you know, the serenity of it.
Yeah. When was the last time you got to a game? Because
an actual MLB game would have been 1993 in Oakland, when I saw the A's and the Brewers. And
my goodness.
It's the only game I've been to.
Really? Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I know you don't live really, really close to a stadium. I think probably Toronto is the closest, right?
Yeah. Well, Florida now, Dunedin right now.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. They're not even, that's a good point.
I have been to Dunedin to see a couple games when I was down in Florida vacationing, but that was even before. So 93 would have been the last time in Oakland to see that, like I said. was right
Wow.
after Canseco had been traded. So Sierra was on the team, and Bobby Witt actually pitched the game, and he was part of that trade.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was just gonna ask you how you ended up an Oakland A's fan. You seem like you might divide your loyalties a little bit, but the A's.
Collecting baseball cards and Ricky Henderson.
Yeah. Yeah. Somewhere at my parents' house, I have a Henderson rookie card laying around.
Nice.
I collected baseball cards starting in 1983 all the way up through maybe 1990, 91, somewhere in there. And while I was collecting cards, my dad is a dentist, and one of his assistants, her daughter, I think it was, had a whole bunch of cards, and they were in a big garbage bag, separated by team with rubber bands. And my dad paid her $40 for the bag, and I bring it home. We throw it on the floor. We go through it, and there's a Henderson rookie right there.
Wow.
82 tops. So we held on to that, or 80 tops. I'm sorry. Held on to that one.
I had a shiver come over me there because I have a bad story when it comes to garbage bags and cards, because we moved around a lot when I was a kid. When I got to grade 10, that was my 10th school. And when we moved from Nova Scotia back to Newfoundland once, a lot of my hockey cards were in a garbage bag, and that was thrown out with the garbage. And I lost my whole hockey card collection that I've been collecting for at that point 5 years, I guess. So I had some good rookie cards in hockey there that I lost.
I mean, it's common for people in our parents' generation. I mean, my dad has a story about how his mom threw all his cards out from the 60s. I've managed to hold on to my cards, although of course they're not worth as much. I did, however, lose a whole bunch of vinyl records when we moved to Ohio back in 2016. And the terrible thing is I don't think I realized they were gone for a while. Like by the time I realized they were gone, it was too late to do anything. And so I had to hit up the dollar bins to try to rebuild this collection because it was,
it was basically the first thing I looked for once we got removed, and it wasn't there.
Oh man, it still stings. It doesn't stop stinging. And I get mad every time I think I'm getting mad right now. Yeah. That.
Yeah. That's the feeling I had when you said garbage bags and cards. That feeling went right over me. I was like,
yeah. So there's a Cal Ripken rookie in that bag too. I think if I remember correctly, my brother, who's 4 years younger, owner of the Rivertown Club, he got the Henderson and I got the Ripken. I don't know who you think might come out on the better end of that. I haven't checked the values lately. At the time, I would say the Henderson might be worth
Henderson
more.
Was inspiring. Henderson was inspiring for me. That's why I was an A's fan, partially, mainly.
Yeah, there's really nobody like Henderson. He just, the greatest leadoff man of all time.
He stole the show.
The idea of the prototypical leadoff man, that's kind of a lost art. I mean, there are obviously guys who get on base a lot. There are guys who
that's crazy.
Bases.
It's crazy how it's different like that.
It's as if Henderson was made in a lab, and then they gave him a really interesting personality and stuck that on there for fun.
And his bizarro clone was Vince Coleman.
Yeah, right. As a fan of a team who employed Billy Hamilton there for a while, I definitely saw a lot of Coleman in Billy. The difference is Billy was a likable human.
Billy was the last big speed, prospect. There hasn't been one since Billy like that.
Yeah, and I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he has a job with the major league team now. I think the Indians cut him. I don't know. He's been bouncing around. He's kind of like this, last guy on the bench now, and it's sad because I followed him going back to when he was playing in the California League in high A ball for the Bakersfield Blaze, and he stole 157 bases or something like that.
It didn't quite translate because of his on base percentage, obviously, right? But
yeah. I think, and he never seemed to want to bunt. He was very stubborn about that. Didn't want to bunt. Every now and then he would, and it's like nobody could understand, why don't you just bunt? He wouldn't do it. He wanted to learn how to hit, and he kind of has never gotten good at it. And it's just the way it is.
It's saying the White Sox he's currently with there. I just checked it out.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't. I just remembered the Indians cut him in spring training. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's.
I wasn't sure either, so I just took a look.
Yeah, I mean he was very fun to watch, but also really frustrating. I mean, just you can go long stretches where he couldn't even hit the ball out of the infield, and it was.
Well, that kind of goes back to what you were saying about what they're trying to do, and I think they want more action is what they're aiming for. Like less home runs, more action now, whereas before it was chicks dig the long ball,
Right, and I think they still want people hitting home runs. they had the one rule change that they're proposing. They're running at one of the minor leagues where they're making the bases bigger, which was something that I had never heard anybody talk about. And that
I
made
never
me
heard
laugh.
that.
It's like making the bases bigger. I forget which level they're trying on, maybe double A. But by making the bases bigger, allegedly, this is going to make it easier to steal bases.
That's silly.
And if you think about it, it's pretty hilarious.
Are they going to be wearing big clown shoes as well?
Yeah, right.
Around?
I mean, a few years ago, baseball got a lot of heat because they were going to try to cross promote Spider-Man by putting spiders on the bases. Do you remember this from a few years ago?
No, I didn't. I don't remember hearing that.
Then later football did the thing where they had all the they added all the Nickelodeon slime to like the replays and stuff. Some of the things that they're willing to try, but who knew that making bases bigger could actually somehow increase excitement in the game. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if it actually does anything. Nobody seems to think it's going to do anything, but
it sounded silly to me. But the first time I heard it, just my initial reaction was silly.
Yeah. And I'm also for deadening the ball as well, just a little bit. 1987 was one of my formative baseball years, and that was a year when the offense went absolutely nuts. And my favorite player at the time, Eric Davis, hit 37 homers and stole 50 bases in the same season. I think they're trying to get back to a game where there's more than one winning approach, not just getting walks and homers and pitching and 3-run homers, right? The Earl Weaver,
the three home runs, the 3-run homer.
Yeah. And I don't know. So specifically Oakland, I wanted to, so you're inspired by Ricky Henderson, but you just kind of picked him up at random, or you just,
well, it was just who I gravitated towards. Like I said, collecting cards. Cause I didn't here growing up in Newfoundland. I did play baseball for a couple of years when I was a kid, but the league, there's only like 6 teams in the whole league, on the island, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, it wasn't a big league. So like I said, it's not a big sport here,
Right.
So to me, it was on the radio or on TV. TSN had just started up at the time, which is a sports channel now, and magazines and cards, with the gum in them, the way it should be.
Yep.
And it was Oakland just became my favorite team. I never changed that. I haven't changed any of my favorite teams except for hockey, which they moved, of course. And I'm hoping Seattle. I'm going to gravitate to Seattle next year when they come in hockey.
Oh, okay.
Where I'm following hockey again now, and I'll get to start fresh with a new team. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's right. The Seattle expansion hockey.
Yeah, the Kraken. Yeah.
The Kraken, that's right. Right. All right. Yeah. I mean, you can see probably by my shirt, I don't know if it shows, but, I didn't become an NBA fan until I moved to Oregon. I lived in Oregon for 10 years. Other than that, I've always lived in Ohio. And, in Ohio is about college basketball, pro basketball, not cool. I mean, yeah, there's the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's the other end of the state. Doesn't count. It's 5 hours away. Or depending on where you live, 3 to 5 hours away. And, but I moved to Portland, which is a town that has an NBA franchise, but no Major League Baseball or, football. And they're kind of the only game in town. And so I ended up getting into it that way. And it's so weird because, growing up in the Midwestern sports fans are kind of a certain way about their teams. You have this kind of fatalist attitude, like even when things are going right, you're just waiting for them to go wrong again. For example, my team, the Reds, they just broke a 6-game losing streak last night. Of course, that's the game I decided to watch. I'd missed the last few. They win all the ones I don't watch, and then I sit down to watch. I'm like, oh, they're going to lose this one. And guess what? They lost. And you're waiting for everything to go wrong because it's just a matter of time till it does go wrong.
Well, I'm an A's fan, so I mean, it's been that way. It's been that way since they won with the Bash Brothers,
Yeah, no, that's right. I just actually caught the last 10 minutes of Moneyball the other day, and they remind, the movie ends with the A's winning 20 games in a row. And they point out, that the Boston Red, there's a text on the screen at the end. The Boston Red Sox took the Billy Beane approach, won the World Series in 2004, for their first time in their history or recent history, or what is it, 100 years or whatever. Yeah. And then it's like Billy Beane is still trying to win. It's like, oh man.
And Oakland snapped a 6-game losing streak as well this season already.
That's right. They got off to the worst start. It was really weird to see see my team get off to a good start because I mean, the last few years it's always been a slow start. A couple of years ago they started off 3-18, and fired their manager over it, and it was just so it's kind of neat, especially after they played really bad on opening day, gave up 6 runs in the first inning, lose that game, and then I was like, oh my God, here we go. We're going to be so far in the hole that you're never going to climb out, and then boom, 6 wins in a row. I don't know what to do.
That's one of the beauties of it, the long season. It's not like
Yeah, that's to me, that's another thing. Other than you can have a conversation during the game, that's another thing I love about baseball. The long season, there's a game almost every day, and you don't want to get too up or down. There was just a thing in the media earlier this week about how it seems like New York Yankees fans treat the season as 162 one-game seasons. I love the long season. I love being able to kind of treat it as, oh yeah, well, boy, we really suck right now, and then but we're going to get better. You wait a few weeks and then you win a few in a row, and it's not like football, for example, where every game is the end of you got to win this game or your team sucks, and then you have to wait a whole week to make it better. So,
yeah, football here it's a different beat, and football is my favorite, right? And I've been a Cowboys fan since I was a kid, and it's every game is obviously it should be life or death, obviously 16, 17 games. Yeah. But yeah, no, baseball, and it's one of the reasons that I love baseball for that. It's different that way. So there you go.
Yeah.
And the narratives, myself and your brother were kind of typing back and forth there in the Discord earlier about how different stories within a dynasty league, and that's baseball. Every season you have many stories that come up and go, and there'll be so many different stories over the course of the baseball season. It's crazy, and that's makes it great.
Right. So that actually leads back to something else I was going to ask. So when you decided to start this league, you started to get people who were a part of this Facebook group to join up. We got people who were, I can't wait when we have Juan on here. I got to ask him about his actual appearance on the podcast. I got a question read on the podcast, but I'm not interesting enough to be on the podcast. But anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah. So what was it that possessed you to, because most fantasy leagues, everything turns over at the end of the year. Yeah, you try to keep the same people in the league or whatever, but usually you start from scratch. You have a draft and you have a new team every year. What was it that not only possessed you to do a dynasty type format, but also, put in all the stuff about the salaries, and, that of course means rules about transactions. That means, a draft, that means rookies, that means prospects, that means, keeping spreadsheets of everything. How did that part of it come to be?
Well, as I said, it's the only league until I joined this hockey league this year that I've ever been in. So I think it was a combination of my love of baseball being rekindled and discovering the Up In podcast and feeling that sense of community and wanting to have a league that felt special to me and one that lasted, and I'm so happy it's still here now. And that we're even sitting here today and doing this. And when you just said you're gonna have Juan on, I just lit up, I'm looking forward to seeing that,
Yeah.
So, I do have a connection to everyone that's in the league, and obviously the original members that are still around, more so in some ways, but and like to have Jim coming back now, that's just awesome to me, right?
Yeah, I dropped him a note. Jim was an original. I don't think Jim was an original member. He came in fairly early on. Am I right, or was he an original member?
Pretty sure Jim was the original member.
Okay.
If he wasn't, it was second year, but I'm pretty sure he was. I would have to ask him when he's on.
Okay.
You have to ask him when he gets on.
Okay. And he apparently, you said he created the spreadsheets for the league, which I honestly had thought that Brady did those. Brady, the former commissioner of the league, or Crash, you were the first commissioner of the league. Brady was the second commissioner. Now I'm the third. Yeah. But apparently you said Jim did those.
Pretty sure Jim was the was the guy that brought up the spreadsheets.
I learned something today. I didn't know that.
Pretty sure.
So, I obviously work with those almost every single day of the year. So not every day of the year, but I mean, most days of the year, it seems like. Other than that, kind of, there's about a 3 or 4 month off season where nobody does anything. But the rest of the time, I mean, something happens almost every day, and So, and it seems like some of the younger members of the league, some of the folks who, some of the more recent additions, it seemed like they really want to streamline some of the rules. So we're going to have to see how that goes.
Streamline how? Like in what sense?
Well, like for example, somebody was saying, we shouldn't have players subjected to waivers if you drop them from ESPN.
Absolutely, though. I mean, an owner like myself who just would love to have 1,000
wants
players.
To have 1,000 players, right?
Right. Because one of them I might strike gold with them because it's so cheap.
Yeah.
There's a penalty. Like right now, I'm trying to move Pineda because I don't want to send him down and lose him.
I know you're trying to trade him to me.
I'm trading to everyone. I'm trying to get one prospect for him, right? Because if I send him down, someone's going to take him. Yeah. And I won't get anything for him except for cap space, which will be fine too. I just brought Steven Matz up, and I think after seeing those first two performances, he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm usually a good person to try to trade pitchers to, because I'm sort of like the Jim Bowden era Reds in that I'm always short of starting pitching, and Jim Bowden, when he was a GM and not a hacky ESPN personality and sports writer, was constantly trying to find all the pitchers on the scrap heap all the time. And you can find a guy here and there, and there's some great story stuff, but he would try to find entire bullpens, entire rotations. And guess what? It kind of generally didn't really work. No. And for whatever reason, maybe I've got that in my subconscious or something. And I'm just always short of, kind of always perennially short of starting pitching. So I don't know.
I've been pretty competitive every year. I mean, I've been playoff bound most seasons except one. I think I've made the playoffs every year except one, and I did win one championship.
I was just going to say, which year was it? Do you remember?
2016, I think.
16.
Okay. I believe it was 16 or 17. Yeah.
I mean, I won the first year in 2013, and then I won the last 2 years. Frankly, last year was just lucky. I'm not trying to be modest. Like it was kind of like an 80. Year. It was like an 87 Twins thing where like they were not anywhere close to the best team. They just got on a run and it just,
Yeah. Well, that's another thing I love about the setup, because right now I'm saving my pitching and stuff because I just need to get a win. It doesn't matter how pretty it is, as long as I can get the win this week, And then I'm more stocking up for next week now. That's why I called up Matt's. So you look ahead and I love the setup how it is. So I hope we don't change too many rules.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make things difficult for people, but it is basically. I mean, the league is kind of it's kind of a democracy. So as the commissioner,
I agree.
As the commissioner, I'm not going to be like, I might say, well, I don't think we should have I don't think you should be able to roster 80 players and shuffle them around, like you're, the Tampa Bay Rays times 10. It seems like most people don't really like the way the Rays treat players, even though it obviously works for the Rays. But
I was the one who wanted the players union. Don't forget
the players union. Yeah, right. That's true. In fantasy baseball, the owners have all the power. Isn't that right? You give it's
true.
It's just another form of Dungeons and Dragons, right? So, it's all about leveling up. So, and one of the things you need is you got to have control of the situation. So, obviously we make it so when players become free agents, they become free agents in the game too. That kind of portrays that uncertainty of,
absolutely.
You never know if a player's going to sign the extension or not.
And when you get that extension, it feels good.
Yeah, that's true. I think sometimes our league rules did not anticipate some of the things that baseball has started doing in the last few years. For example, extensions handed out to players who are basically rookies or just up from the minors, where they're handing out 4, 5, 6 years.
When we started, it wasn't like we didn't see that when it started.
No.
And that makes a big change to our league. But also, we're in our 9th season now, so
that's true.
Some of these players signing these contracts will be out of those in 4, 5, 6 years, right?
Yeah, and then also the idea of the mega extension. We've just had 2 of them here in the last couple of years with Mookie Betts and with Fernando Tatis Jr., where in our league the salaries are still really low. The players are signing these big deals well before they get to free agency, and so like even at the end of 14 years, Fernando Tatis Jr. Is only going to be making in our league, assuming nothing changes, is only going to be making in the $30 bucks, $35. I mean, that doesn't, Mookie Betts kind of the same idea. It doesn't really seem like, it doesn't really seem like enough. And
mega deals, you froze.
Oh, yeah, I know. I think the internet connection's a little off. It's not my
Yeah.
fault this time. I didn't hit the button.
Oh no, I didn't think it was your fault this time.
I've tried real hard not to hit this button. Okay, I'm putting it over here. All right. So I move around and it bumps. And anyway.
Yeah, that's okay.
So we'll have to see how it goes. I have to say I personally do favor possibly changing the escalation, the way the dollars escalate in the contracts a little bit. We
Yeah,
changed.
well, that's adding more complexion. But I mean, I don't mind the complexion. I don't mind it. Like, add away when it comes to adding like a players' union. When you increase the money that the players are speaking for.
Yeah.
Right.
There are a lot of ways you can adjust it, though. We could cut the salary cap and say now you can only have $400 worth of players. So that's going to make hard decisions. And so then that way, you don't have to depend on people bidding more.
Yeah, bigger prospect pool if that's the case too. Then I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was a positive change a couple of years ago when we decided to make some of the rookies cost more than $1, because originally rookies only cost $1 total.
Yep,
and right. That was something. I'm all for. Obviously, we have a lot of bookkeeping. I don't really want to increase the amount of bookkeeping from what it is. I mean, you can change the bookkeeping. It's there. I try to. Maybe it's just because I'm doing a lot of the bookkeeping myself, and it's just I kind of hit the level. I kind of hit the zone where, I don't know how much more of this I want to stack on there without a good reason. But
yeah, exactly, and I think it's fine as it is. So I mean, if you guys really feel like you need to change it from what it is, then I guess we'll have to, right? Because like you said, it is a democracy.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, yeah, it is. I'm joking by pretending it's not, because if 13 other owners want to do something, it doesn't matter what I think.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Like I'll
we'll
do
just
it.
We'll have to find someone to help you with the booking. But Jim is coming back, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. So I think what I'm going to suggest is that maybe Jim be the co-owner on your team. Not that he's going to take over your team, but
no.
You make him the co-owner on your team so he can kind of. I don't know if you maybe you don't want to make any changes in the lineup or whatever, but I mean, if
no, he would not be allowed to make changes to my lineup. He could definitely come in and view, and he's in the Discord now, and he can come in and view everything going on in the league anytime.
Maybe I'll make him the co-owner on my team and just say don't touch anything.
Well, that's what I'd do. That's all I'd say. Don't touch anything, please.
Yeah, but just it's. I think it's a good way for people to get back in this. I mean, things have not, other than the change from Facebook to Discord, there hasn't been any fundamental changes in the way the way generally things are done. I mean, you're not allowed to just pick up guys at random. Obviously you have to nominate them and stuff.
Yeah.
If they're on your spreadsheet, you can add them. If they're on their team and you want to drop them, you got to post it. I mean, all that stuff has been the same the whole time.
Absolutely, it hasn't changed that much.
Not really. I don't think so.
No,
it's just
fundamentally it's still the same.
Yeah, it's just easy to forget sometimes. So anyway, I can't really. We've been talking about the history of the league now and being in 9 seasons, and we've kind of alluded to this a little bit. I can't help but think about how lives have changed or stayed the same in those 9 seasons. And I think you talked about, obviously you've been living in the same apartment for 9 years, but pretty much everything else about your life has changed in the last 9 years, has it not? Or a lot of things?
Oh yeah, quite a few things. Yeah, of course. I think anybody's life will change over the course of 8 to 9 years. Our skin every 7 years, our skin changes totally.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, here in the Midwest, we have the cicadas who come up every 17 years, and they're due this year. Cicadas are not something I was thinking about 9 years ago.
That's right.
I'm going to have to think about them this year. Do they have cicadas in Canada?
No, not that I know of.
There's a reason to move there. Cicadas suck. Anyway, so
I'll have to look into it after the podcast.
Yeah. So, all right.
But for myself personally, I moved in here. I was basically coming out of my heaviest playing live rock and roll phase, and I was coming out of the thralls of addiction, and something I still struggled with for the first few years of the league. And back when I was commissioner, and I was having some paranoid thoughts and stuff at the time. It's not funny, but it's kind of funny now. But and that's what happened with Brady, when I thought Brady was trying to take over the league and stuff, and I thought he was trying to get rid of me. And I just removed Brady, and it's one of the worst things I've ever done in my life. I honestly can say
Really?
it's one of the worst things I've done in my life. I felt so bad about that within a day of doing it. I felt so bad about it because I said I'm only imagining these things. It can't be real. And then he took over as commissioner. I was like, it was real.
I was going to say the irony of that, and I know that someone who joined the league in the last couple of years wouldn't remember this thing, but yeah, I forget, there was some sort of dispute. I don't remember what the dispute was about. And next thing I know, you're like, you posted on Facebook, you're like, yeah, I banned Brady,
and it wasn't right. It's not right to do that.
No, and then then Brady. The irony was that Brady later, what was it, maybe a year later or something, became the commissioner, and So, and I know. When he had to give it up, he had a lot going on.
I know.
At the end,
I reached out to him first, actually, and him and Jim first.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not. It'd be great if Brady came back and was like, "Hey, I like baseball." But he was kind of in a bad place with baseball, and we've had a few folks say basically, I don't know how much my fandom is really still going on. That was the case with a couple of the other folks that have left as well. So, that's the way it goes.
For me, I don't think unless I die, I don't think I'll leave the league unless it disbands, because for me, I might not have a year where I can fall out so much, but
right.
I don't think my fandom will totally leave, and I'll never ever think it will leave for good, So
yeah, and dealing with a league like this where you have to kind of know the rules and you have to kind of you have to do this kind of management is a little different. It's not just kind of show up and pick some dudes and see who you got.
That's right.
And there are people that are still fans and they just don't have the time. I think Jim probably falls in that category. So
absolutely. Well, like I said, I'm only, how many leagues are you in, Scott? Like in all sports altogether?
Oh, well, I was going to mention this. I'm in another league that also includes my brother. And it's one that I didn't start, that I'm not the commissioner of, and then I was kind of came in after it was already going. And the interesting thing with that is it's on Yahoo, so it feels different, even though it's, I have certain pet guys that I want on both of my teams, and it's like, oh man, this guy better not get hurt, because then I get doubly smacked,
Yeah.
Teoscar Hernandez gets COVID-19 or whatever. Well, I have a hole in both of my lineups now.
Did they come back positive?
I don't know. I think he's actually just quarantined or something, but
yeah, okay.
It says in Yahoo, there's a little COVID-19 next to his name. So, but anyway, and that league has a different tone to it, because you pay $150 every year, and then the winner gets a fairly decent pot of cash. And so there's that motivation there. And yet, for whatever reason, I'm far more successful in this league. I've finished second once in that league in 4 years, and then I've never placed in the other leagues. My brother won one time, and he bought himself a new washer and dryer with the money.
Nice.
He's proud of his washer and dryer that he got because of fantasy football or fantasy baseball. So then there's that one, and then I haven't actually played. I don't play any other fantasy sports currently. I did play fantasy football for a while through my work, but my work let the guy who ran the league go, and so no one's picked it up. And it's just that I've been thinking about starting the football. But the funny thing is that I'm not bringing this up because I'm tooting my own horn or whatever, but the success that I've had in this league, I've never had that kind of success in any other fantasy sports. We just finished another NCAA tournament thing where I play in a bracket every year. I have never won a dime in my entire life. I've been playing NCAA tournament brackets probably since I was in like junior high, like 7th grade or whatever. I've never won a penny in 30 plus years.
If everybody followed the rules, you'd have a room full of stuff from around the world there now.
Yeah, I know, right? And I don't win any. I don't win anything in my other fantasy baseball league. Like I said, I did win a little bit one time. Like this is it. Like I don't know what it is, but it's just like all the moves that I make just seem to have a better chance of working out in this league, and I don't know why that is.
It's funny. I was watching a fantasy or listening while I was actually cooking and doing dishes stuff the earlier today. I was listening to a fantasy podcast on YouTube,
Yeah.
It was the RotoWire one, and they brought up talk about different leagues they were in, and he mentioned about how they added money to it, and it changed it, and the league fell apart after they added the money to it because it's a different dynamic in a league like that, where it was like $1,000 buy-in. I think that's a bit more.
Oh, geez. Okay, well, that's a pretty sizable thing. I don't know.
But also, you can get a bit more animosity build up in leagues like that, obviously, too, I think,
Oh, geez. Yeah, I bet they get really cutthroat. And I know in our league, this is a great chance to bring this up. I know that we haven't really done it the last couple of years, and maybe we can try to get it going again. But you did write into the original league constitution that you did the first version of. I mean, I have revised it, and Brady and I helped Brady revise it going back, but it's still primarily your stuff and your voice in there. And just try to like kind of get it organized or whatever, so people can find the answers and stuff. And one of the things that you wrote in there was that the winner of the league is supposed to receive a prize from everybody else in the league.
That's right. Nothing major, just something. And I think that was one, like I said, the sense community had about forming the league. And I thought that was better than any kind of like 25, 50, $75 you could win, something or whatever, and you never know what you're going to get, and also as we get to know each other through the years, I still want my mezcal from Juan, right?
That's right. He was going to send you mezcal. I forgot about that. Well, so after I won the first year in 2013, I was like, oh my God, I won. I can't believe this. You sent me a present. Do you remember what you sent me?
I sent you the CD and a book, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
You sent me a CD of the CrashJonesBand. Never heard of them, but and the autobiography of former Yankees and Padres third baseman Greg Nettles.
That's right.
Entitled Balls.
Yeah.
And I remember and then that, and also I got a loaf of banana bread
from Brady. from
Brady.
Yeah. My
wife unwraps the banana bread. We're living in Oregon at the time, and she gets marijuana was about to be legalized, but wasn't yet. I think it was, it legalized like the year that we moved away. I voted for it. I voted for all the tax increases that year, and then I left town. And she's like, "Is this safe to eat?" I was like, "Is there stuff in this?" I was like, I don't think so. Brady lives in a red state, man. I don't know about this. No, we did eat the banana bread. It was very good. I did read a few chapters of Balls. I'm pretty sure I still have it somewhere around here. My setup is turned around, so my bookcase with all my bobbleheads and all the stuff, I put a picture of some of the stuff on my bookshelf. It's all above me, so I can't. But I'm pretty sure I have it around here somewhere still. But there's nothing like receiving a copy of Balls in the mail from someone.
I thought it was a nice touch
from someone you've never met in another country in your fantasy baseball league. So
I think I inscribed on it. You have to have balls to win the championship in this league or something.
Yeah, right. It's just funny because I read a lot of baseball biographies and autobiographies when I was a kid. Like I remember specifically, I read the I don't know if you read a lot of baseball books in the in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but I had never known that book existed. So I remember reading Jay Johnstone, the former Major League outfitter, wrote a couple of books that were really successful that I read. And former Major League umpire Ron Luciano wrote a whole series of books about his time as an umpire. It was just basically a series of anecdotes of him doing goofy stuff with players and so on. And so I'd read all these books and I'd never heard of that book. But anyway,
I'm glad that's the one you got. You got balls.
Yeah, right. And I know that I want to say that the whole send a gift thing, wasn't there something where you're supposed to send a gift to the last place finisher too? Or am I wrong?
Yes, there was, I believe. I think I think it was the last place finisher in the league got a gift as well, and it was a cheaper gift, of course, but a gift nonetheless. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if I did that or not. Anyway, I know this kind of petered out after a couple of years.
It did peter out after a couple of years, yeah. But I'd love for that to come back. Because the thing is, if it's kept up, it's not that bad. But see what happens, a couple of years go by and you feel bad, you don't get the gifts out. It's like, then all of a sudden you got to send out 7 or 8 gifts,
Yeah.
So
I'm sure everybody would love it if I was like, all right, well, every year you've been in the league, you're gonna have to send,
retroactive pay. We're gonna chase down people from years past.
we'll be glad that our buddy Nathan down in Australia hasn't won like 5 years in a row. I mean, that'd get prohibitive real quick.
Yeah, exactly. That was the first year I didn't send a gift, was when Nathan won.
I forgot that he won a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So up to that year, I'd sent a gift, I'm pretty sure.
So Nathan living in Australia, that pretty much killed the gift program. I can't wait to I hope I'm able to get him on the show. Obviously, we're going to have to work out the timing. Earlier in the year, we were messaging on Discord, and it was evening for me. I was at home. It was like 10 p.m. I was at home. I think my wife was out or something, and the kids were in bed, and I'm texting, and I'm just, Nathan and I had this whole conversation. There was a whole thing about Ray Kroc and the San Diego Padres, and I don't know, it went into a whole thing. And then he goes, man, I'm really not getting anything done today. I was like, what do you mean? And it's like, oh, wait a second. It's the middle of his work. It's the next day. It's the middle of his work day. He's a professional man. He's got a job. And here I am talking about Ray Kroc and the San Diego Padres while he's trying to work. So while I'm sitting on the couch drinking a beer, I was like, oh, sorry, man. Yeah, I get going, and you asked me stuff, and I knew it. So I don't know. But I hope to have him on as well. I think
how regular do you want to do them, Scott? How regular are you hoping to do the podcast? Once every couple of weeks, or?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just want to get an episode for everyone, basically, exactly. And then we can figure out where to go from there. I mean, I kind of, I guess I was hoping maybe someone would write up like weekly recaps of of like.
I'm gonna do that. I'm starting Monday. Oh, I'm doing
right.
That.
Yeah, you said that. I think that works out, but I feel like I don't know. Maybe it's I'll tell you about this theory I have in just a second, but I just have this doubt that even that people in the league would listen to a podcast about what happens in the league itself.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I've always thought that you generally don't want to talk about your fantasy sports league to anyone else who's not in it.
Because and also you don't want to tell anybody about too much in it either.
Well, right. I mean, people get bored really quick, and so I had a thing about a week ago where I was hanging out with a bunch of folks, which obviously that's not something I've been doing much from the last year. Everybody was appropriately distanced and sitting around, and somebody's talking about how they were doing all this day trading in the stock market, and they'd hit on this company, hit on that company. And I was like, oh man, this is like me sitting here talking about my fantasy baseball team.
Exactly. That's right.
And I'm like nodding off while the guy's talking about how he made $400 on this thing, and it's just
I think your original thought of having one person and a show for an episode for each person is a good way to start that. See where it goes from there.
But I feel like people would, especially if you've been in the league for a long time, you would be interested in kind of seeing what these other people that you kind of know but you don't really know.
Totally, I'm totally down for watching every single episode that you make of this.
So what they're like and all that kind of stuff. That would be a far more interesting thing. And then plus this gives me kind of a project because I just I've discovered over the last year that if I kind of just hang around and watch the clock that it's not that life grinds you down a little bit. I mean, I kind of I've been waiting for life to get back to normal for a long time now. I have my second vaccine shot here in a few days, and it's just time to kind of live it again. And so,
well, I'm just finished up school, as I was saying. I'm starting my work term on Monday. I had a couple days before Easter break, and I'm in with a grade 7 class. I get to hang out with a bunch of grade 7s for 6 weeks.
Oh no!
to finish up school. And then I'll be starting my new career. It's been a long time coming.
So you're going to be a teacher, or you're going to be
a child youth care worker.
Oh, care worker. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just so happens my work term is in a school. Right.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I know. I mean, I know you had a much different job a while back when you started the league. Things have.
Yeah, DJ at both the strip clubs here in town.
Yeah. Oh, there's 2. Okay.
There's two in St. John's. I DJ'd at both of them. There was 3, but it closed down there, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Well,
T-Mobile buys T-Mobile buys Sprint, and so. But yeah, I remember that was your job when you started the league. So there's a great example of how life changes in just a measly 9 years, right?
Absolutely.
So congratulations on that.
Thanks, bro.
I've had the exact same job for working on 16 years now. So I'm the opposite of that. But obviously I went from working in an office every day in Oregon, where my work is headquartered, to becoming a remote worker 2,500 miles and 3 time zones away. Then after this pandemic happened, my work decided that they weren't going to do the everybody comes to the office thing anymore anyway. And so now the department I'm in, I was the only remote worker out of 20 people for several years. And now everybody's a remote worker in the department. They don't go into the office anymore at all.
Yeah, because of the pandemic, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah, but then they also have this fancy building they have in the middle of the downtown in the expensive West Coast city. Now they've subleased that out, and now they really don't do in-person office work that much anymore. So everything has changed in that sense, but it's basically still the same thing. And it really has changed everything in the sense that I don't have to sit around wondering if all the people are standing around the coffee maker talking about me and I'm not there to defend myself, right? But, other than that, it's been basically the same thing. So, other than the move and the kids and things have been pretty consistent. So I can't wait to bring this question up with someone like Jordan. Jordan was in high school in Maryland, right? And then finishes high school, goes to college here in Ohio, actually about an hour from where I live. Yeah. And then moves to New York City, gets a media job. It's a lot. And I really want to hear that accounting of that. I do admit I went and asked him when we started talking about expanding the league, and I was like, so what's the chance that our friend Jake might want to get back into it? But I think Jake is done with fantasy sports. So I've already tried. it. Ever since he was the Division III pitching superstar, But I try to listen to their podcast.
Was he drafted? Our third season? Did somebody draft him?
Who? Jake?
No, because did somebody draft Jake? Because we were like, I think originally you didn't have to be signed to a major league team to be drafted. You could draft anyone. I could draft myself.
I see. Just as okay. I was like, I don't think he was a serious draft prospect.
No, I know. But I think in the rules before you could draft anyone in the world.
Boy, I don't know. I don't remember that being written in there. But I guess you could. But then I think it became people were drafting 16-year-olds from the Dominican Republic who were going to sign the following July 2nd. As soon as and
I'm still waiting on Laser. Laser's coming up one of these days.
Who's that?
Laser Arzamentos there on the Oakland.
Oh yeah. Oh right. Okay, I think I remember you talking about. And so it's like, all right, this is kind of ridiculous. Like personally, I personally have not gotten in the habit of drafting six. I know there are several teams in the league who've drafted these 16-year-old guys, and I'm not talking about just the biggest prospects like what's his name, Dominguez, right, on the Yankees, right?
Jason Dominguez, yeah.
Yeah, or the A's a while back had Michael Yanoa, I think is how you pronounce it, or
I had him actually, yeah.
Yeah, and he hasn't. He's actually made the big. Yeah, I know he was signed at 16 though, and he was like the biggest bonus ever at the time, and he did make the big league, but he's not become a star. No. In fact, I want to say he was in the big league, or he was in the big leagues last year. I'm pretty sure.
I drafted him, and and I had him for 4 or 5 years, and he didn't see daylight at that point, and I traded him.
Yeah, and I have a personal philosophy of trying to draft guys that are close to the big leagues for the most part. Even though that might reduce their ceiling a little bit because the best prospects get snapped up. That's just me personally.
It feels like there's a sea change coming in the league now too, where younger players will get in. Maybe the next collective bargaining, maybe the one after.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be. That's going to have to do with the fact that there are now less levels of the minor leagues. They got rid of it. They basically got rid of rookie ball outside of the complexes, right, in Florida and Arizona. They got rid of the New York Penn League. They got rid of the Pioneer League. which that's really sad. I feel bad for all those people in the mountain states.
Yeah, that's bad.
Montana, Colorado, places like that don't have Colorado, but Montana and Idaho and places that don't have major league teams within 500 miles. They had professional baseball for a long time. I mean, the Reds had their affiliate in Billings, Montana for 40 years. And now that's not a professional league anymore. Not yet. I mean, I think they're going to try to make it into some sort of college league or something, but so they got rid of those levels. And so I wonder if that means players are going to start reaching the big leagues at a younger age. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Or if they're just going to if a guy like Jason Dominguez ends up playing in A-ball for 3 years, whereas he would have spent that time, in those low leagues before that.
It feels to me like when there's a movement coming now where it just doesn't feel fair to that they can with all these RF years, and I think a sign of it is these contracts are being given out to the younger players, these extensions. That's a sign that this might change, I think.
Yeah, there's the players union, I think, has put a lot of pressure on the young players who've just made the big leagues to not take these, 4-year, $7 million extensions. Like, hey, you want to be a kid, you want to be a millionaire right now, even though you've had 50 major league at bats, here's a 4-year deal, you sign it. And, you're giving away some income potential, but, also you really want to build your mom a house. So it's,
right.
It's a really tough thing. And I know, like I said, our rules are not really set up with those expectations. And so I don't know what you do about that. Maybe you just,
In our league, you mean what we do about it?
Yeah, I don't know if you can do anything about it or not.
I don't know. I think if someone was signed, just add like a base rate of like $10 or something to the contract or something. Yeah, something simple, nothing too complex.
I mean, I know my brother was saying, you shouldn't make when you sign a free agent, like as a veteran free agent, their salary shouldn't escalate every year the way it does. That kind of stuff. With that makes it more complicated, I guess, because you have.
No, I don't agree with that. I think just keep it simple. $2 is good.
So, yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, it used to be a variable number, and we kind of realized that was a mess to keep track of.
It was a bit messy. Part of the reason that's my players' union streak. See, and
the players' union fought. The imaginary players' union fought for that. Yeah, wow. Yeah. Well, okay. It'll be interesting to see if the our imaginary players' union is more effective than the real players' union.
We'll see what this next one. We'll see what this next collective bargaining agreement. So, any questions left, brother? I got to wrap her up there soon.
Oh yeah, sure. I
got another 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, okay. I got two more. I got two more about you that I wanted to make sure I got to. But first of all, I wanted to know how you got your nickname, because obviously your given name is not Crash.
No, that came about. My father first coined it at dinner table there back in the early 90s after I flipped the car. And he said we should start calling it Crash. And that later came up when I was hanging out in 1998 in downtown St. John's with the first drummer of the CrashJonesBand. And we were trying to come up with a name for the band, and I just said CrashJonesBand. And he said, where'd that come from? And I said, my father said I should have been called Crash, and he liked it. And he said, let's use that. And that was the name of the band. And I wasn't Crash Jones. It was nothing like that. And then in 2001, I got pretty ill. And it took me a few years to come back from it. And I never played in bands and stuff for 6 years. And in 2008, I reformed the band Dow Jones. But what had happened was when I created my Facebook profile, I used the name Crash Jones as kind of like in honor of the band, and I didn't want to use my real name, and also I didn't want to use my real name on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Because Facebook was new. It was new. It was 2008. This was 2007.
Right.
It was new. Yeah.
Right. Facebook.
So that's how that happened, and then I started playing around St. John's in 2008, and a lot of people I met downtown I met as Crash, and then now I'm known as both Stuart or Crash. Right.
Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't realize the CrashJonesBand actually has roots going back 20 some years. That's amazing. I mean, obviously, as long as I've known you, you periodically, you seem to constantly be writing new material, putting snippets of things up on the pages or lyrics or you're redoing reposting older songs or older videos or whatever. So I could tell there was some history to it, but
we do an album right now. We've done an album every year for 6 years in a row of the RPM challenge, and that's the thing that's one of the places that started. It started in Portland, I believe. The RPM challenge did. Plan is where it's based. And, it's and I don't see the guys so much. We don't play shows so much, especially now.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that it's kind of got into a habit of doing every year, and it's really therapeutic.
Yeah, no, I bet. I do know. I couldn't help but notice that. I don't know that I don't have a lot of other Facebook friends that are musicians, so it always kind of stands out in the feed, when you see stuff. So I've watched some of these videos and so on here and there. I try not to be on Facebook too often. I don't post stuff very much, but I'm not in any danger of quitting, even though we don't have our league on Facebook. I used to say that the league was the only thing that kept me on there, but yeah. So then I was going to bring up. I mean, I guess we'll have to direct people back to the Discord because it's kind of up there. But the whole story about where you grew up and how the town has a population of 2, and all that. And so it sounds like you got to get rolling. But
no, I could briefly touch upon that.
Yeah. So it was a great little bit that you posted, and I looked it up on Wikipedia. Well, you posted a link to. It was like the Google Earth view of your apartment, I think. And then there was I somehow ended up on Wikipedia, or maybe you posted Wikipedia. Maybe that was it. And then I fell down the rabbit hole, and
that's where my family, my mother and father are from, and that's where I grew up till I was 5. And it was a fishing, like Newfoundland was a fishing.
And the name of it is
Little Bay Islands. It was at the time.
Little Bay Islands. That's right. Okay. Yeah.
And so that's where I grew up till I was 5. And it's a beautiful little island, and they relocated. So it happened to a lot of smaller communities that around the bay here, around the island. And once the fishing left, the communities died off over time.
Forgive me for rehashing the plot of the movie Moana that my daughter watched all the time, but what happened to all the fish? It just it's
overfishing.
They overfished. Okay.
Overfishing. The Grand Banks was the richest fishing place in the world. The fishing grounds in the world. Grand Banks off Newfoundland, and the Canadian limit only extended so far, and you get from across the pond. You have all the boats lining off just outside, just outside that 200-mile limit or whatever, and just the big. You've seen these ships, they just scrape the grounds, tear the earth, and rape the fish right up on the women,
Oh, gee. Oh, good Lord. All right. So anyway, on that note.
I was just touching on the Three Amigos joke.
I got you. I do. I do. You put your hands on your hip, and, right? So I do remember the Three Amigos. I just, so it's just amazing. I think it's just hard to imagine a town with a population of 2. I mean, I guess, as you said, everybody took off for the mainland. Now, St. John's specifically is a much larger town. I mean,
St. John's is a population of around 150,000.
Okay, so that's pretty decent size. It's a small. It's
big enough. It's big enough.
City. Yeah. So, but so that must be. Do people still go to this island? I mean, obviously nobody lives there, but
with Little Bay Islands, I was out there for my mother's brother's funeral 2 years ago, and this is just before they relocated, and it was very emotional to be out there. I hadn't been out there since my grandmother's funeral in 2001, I believe. Mm-hmm. 2001. So I hadn't been out there a lot. But in the summer you get people who go back out there for sure, because the houses are still in condition, just living condition, and there's still wells, there's still water wells, and No, you can still live out there, and there's just a higher contingency of Americans to sail up because it's a very, very safe harbor for if you have a vessel, just to dock your boat there and spend some time. It's a beautiful little island, like I said, But
Yeah.
the two, Mike and Georgina Parsons, are living out there. In the winter, they're the only two people there, themselves and the dog. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's just fascinating because, I did, especially for someone, I grew up in a large suburb and I've kind of always lived in populated areas. It's just fascinating I really think that's like a TV series or a movie or something about like the only two permanent residents of a town that used to be, like not a ghost town, but, that makes you think of like some mine that ran out of silver, but it was something like that.
It did run out of silver, but it was fish in this case.
Well, yeah, silver. Right. But that would be a great plot for, that'd be a great plot for some sort of,
it may be one day, you never know.
Yeah. So, All right, man. Well, I guess we'll wrap this up. Maybe we'll come back and do, it might be fun to come back and do like roundtables or, like basically, I don't know what you want to call them, virtual happy hours. I don't know about you, but I've done a few of those in the last year.
I'm totally down with doing a virtual happy hour with anybody that's up for doing it in this league.
Sure. And I hope, obviously this is not something that's going to find a wider audience beyond the people in our league, but
that's fine by me.
I do have a plan. Let me outline my plan and then I'll let you go because I got to tell somebody about this.
Go ahead.
So the idea is that I'm going to now that Kevin Goldstein, the Up and In podcast guy, his career's come full circle. He worked for the Houston Astros in the front office. He went through the whole thing. He's already had to explain it on Fangraphs what happened with the Astros cheating scandal. Goldstein basically is like, I'm not involved or whatever. And now he's back in baseball media working for Fangraphs, and he has a podcast and he does chats and so on. So the idea is to try to get on his new podcast by talking about the league inspired by his old podcast, so he can laugh at me and ask me goofy questions, and it can all be very meta. And so that's my plan. And one of the things I think that will help is if I say, listen, we have a podcast in our league. There are other reasons to do this podcast, but that's going to be something I can point to.
Yeah. Well, look, you could even send him this original episode and he'd understand that, right?
Yeah. And right. And, so obviously he had Juan on his podcast. There were things I can talk about how the teams, I originally named my team after one of the things from the Up and In show about the guy came on to talk about how Hawks are jerks. And so I named my team the Oregon Jerk Hawks. Awesome, now it's not called that anymore. Now my team is named after a national song.
Yeah. But I think you should go for that. Go for that, brother. Check that out.
So this is the plan. I know this is really ambitious stuff.
Go for it. Why not?
Obviously I'm going to be the king of all media. So this is just the way to get there. So anyway.
All right, brother. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, brother. Seriously.
Hey, I appreciate you taking some time out of your Sunday afternoon. There's a Reds game on right now. I'm going to go watch it, drink a beer. So please have a great rest of your day. And, if you want to post more stuff about your hometown, please do that because it was awesome. And
I'll be working on the review now tomorrow. I got my first day with the grade 7s, and when I get home from that, I'm going to sip on a beer and kick out the reviews.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Awesome, brother. Man. Cheers.
Have a good one.
You too.